Welcome to Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast, your podcast dedicated to all things Animal Crossing. Episode 174 is brought to you by Julianne, Jennifer Imus, and C Yams, some of our newest Patreon patrons. This week, Nina, Sergio, and I are joined by Brackenhawk, who runs diyCrossing and manages the ACHD Texture Pack project. So to begin, hello Sergio, how are you doing?
Hello, Chuy. I'm doing pretty awesome. It's been a good week and an even better weekend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And then, hi Nina, how are you?
I'm doing super good too. Had a nice, relaxing weekend, and I'm ready for the week. I'm recharged, so it's been good.
Nice.
That's awesome. Always helps when you're going to go teach children, right?
Yeah.
And then, hi Bracken. It's very nice to have you on the show today.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're huge fans of yours
over
here in Haken. So having you on is something we probably wanted for a long time, but we're wondering, when should we,
Well, now is good, so, yeah, cheers.
So
Nice.
excited.
That's awesome. Yeah. So before we get too far into speaking with you, Bracken, and kind of giving you a little interview, we want to quickly address some of the news that has come out recently, or just some quick updates for all of you. The first one, St. Patrick's Day items are out now. This episode comes out Tuesday, and Wednesday is the last day to order these, so be sure to check out the seasonal Nooks shopping tab to get them. There are currently, and if you're barely doing that now, you might be a little bit too late, but there are currently 3 items that are rotating from there. There's the Shamrock door plate, the Shamrock rug, Shamrock soda, and it gives you the cheers animation, just like the wine glass, or I guess it's not wine, the sparkling cider glass.
Sparkling cider, Chuy. It's vacation juice,
Yes.
Chuy.
Vacation juice, that's right. It's an age-appropriate drink here. But you should be able to find at Able Sisters a nice little Shamrock suit, hat, sunglasses, and shoes. So be sure to run over there and pick up that outfit. Dress yourself up like a little leprechaun. It's adorable. And the last thing, which was actually a big surprise to me when I shot it down from a balloon, there is a recipe available at the moment, and it is the Shamrock wand. So I don't know if it's just limited time during this whole
Did you
thing,
get that
but
quickly, or did it take a few balloons to get it?
honestly, I think I got it pretty quickly. It was probably my first or second balloon that I hit, and it dropped down.
So I know people have a lot of trouble with getting all the seasonal stuff,
Yeah.
so I wondered if it was maybe high priority or something.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, and I think what helps is I have all of the other recipes, so there's not much for me to get.
True.
But that said, yeah, it surprised me. I did not know there was even this item in there.
Yeah.
So when
I've
when
not
it
seen
came
it.
out a DIY recipe that I didn't have, I was like, oh, this is wonderful. Yeah. So anyways, once again, be sure to check your Nook Shopping app. You should be able to get a cool item. Ask your friends around to see what they have to send you them to. Because like I said, they're rotating the items this time around, and 2 days is not enough to get all 3 items on your own, so you are going to need some friendship to help you through. So now that all that news is out of the way, let's go ahead and switch over to our interview with Brackenhawk. And hi, Bracken. Like I said, I'm really happy to have you on today.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I do listen in now and then, and I did wonder maybe if it'd be something on the cards at some point. So I'm like, yes.
Absolutely
Yeah.
in the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nina, you've been really excited.
I'm
for
so
this
excited.
too. Yeah, Nina is our resident artist, art teacher extraordinaire.
Yes, I love your art. It has
thanks.
that kind of quirkiness you don't see very often.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So before we get into what you create and everything, actually, let's start there. Can you give us a little background about who you are for our listeners and everything?
Oh boy. Well, I've been making Animal Crossing stuff for a few years now. I've been sculpting for 5. Mostly Animal Crossing stuff, like a few other bits here and there. But yeah, I've always been an arty kind of person. But it's only in the last few years that I've been able to kind of support myself with that. I've been really, really lucky. And lots of people have been really, really great in supporting. So, yeah, I've been a big fan of Animal Crossing since, well, the beginning, really. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad it's something that you can do full time too. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle to get there, but it's it's really paid off.
Cool.
Yeah, that's how those things go often.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah. So we do want to start out with some get to know you questions. Maybe we'll just go back and forth on these, Sergio and Nina. And I guess we'll go me, then Nina, then Sergio on these.
Okay.
So I guess the first question for you, who is your favorite villager?
My favourite is Tabby the cat, and close behind is Claude the rabbit.
Oh,
Nice.
Those are both great. I've had both of them on my island here in New Horizons already.
They were kind of my original GameCube residents that I grew to really like. I think everyone's favourites are kind of like the characters they happen to have in their towns, and they just kind of grew to like them. So it's interesting to see which random characters people just grew attached to. So yeah, they were mine.
Man, and now they've brought Claude back. That's so exciting.
Yeah, see, I had completely forgotten about Claude. I feel really bad. I had completely forgotten about him until I saw the card, and it was only like maybe a year or so ago. I was like, hang on a minute. I know Claude.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, that's really cute. So I guess a little bit of a follow-up there. What really made you, or what got you to get attached to those two characters?
Honestly, I think it's just they looked kind of interesting. I don't know, I kind of like the quirkiness of the original game, and so I was drawn towards the kind of more quirky characters. Loads of people are like, oh, Tabby's so ugly, and Claude has got a big forehead thing, and but I don't know, to me that's just something that makes them stand out a bit more, and I think a lot of characters get ignored because of that, but just the designs on them are really fun, they're not just like generic, boring bear,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the ones that have a little bit of personality to their design for sure.
I think you see that a lot in the older ones too. They're all just like we get a lot of really cutesy ones now that are newer, and the older ones all, like you said, have that kind of quirkiness to them, which is adorable.
Yeah.
They probably had to make them a little bit quirky so they stood out a bit more. Because of course
Yeah.
everything was really kind of old crusty N64 textures, so they had to put something in there to make them stand out.
That's true. So that's your favorite villagers, but what about your favorite special character? Do you have one of those?
I've never been super attached to any of the specials. Fairly recently I've kind of grown on Leaf a bit. Like I kind of liked him when he was first in, is it New Leaf he first popped up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. But yeah, I've been seeing him pop up a lot more, and I just kind of like the chill, kind of does his own thing, and people who know me know that I'm pretty chill and just kind of roll with it. So I also liked how he kind of tricks you a little bit in New Leaf, where he's like, oh yeah, he arrives at your house and he's like, oh yeah, do this thing, and you're like, wow, I'm going to get a great prize, and it's just, your prize is your nice clean town, hurrah! It's like, oh, I just spent like half an hour finding all the weeds and I get nothing.
That's right. I forget he comes on like Earth Day or something like that, doesn't he?
Right.
Other than
think he
his
just shows
little
up.
shop, or maybe he just shows up. Oh my gosh!
I think if
forgot
your
about
town
that.
is like full of weeds,
Yeah,
I think he just
that's
turns
what
up
it
at your door.
is.
And so I would see him all the time, every time.
Yeah.
Aw.
I've gotten to that point on purpose because it's so difficult to get the special items that he actually provides when you do all of the weeding on weeding day. So, yeah, it's fun to see him pop up and just, I don't know, I feel like the sloth would be a very fun character, and I'm always slightly sad that they don't make some more of these species into villagers and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Leaf is pretty nice to have as
He
a
has
character
like
still.
a nice design. I think he would fit as a villager. Like he doesn't have a weird body shape or anything, so I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
definitely
definitely.
would.
So, Bracken, what was your first Animal Crossing game?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, it was the GameCube one. I know I've sort of been a fan since the beginning. Of course, we didn't have the
Nice.
Nintendo 64 version, but I remember it appearing in like a Nintendo magazine or something back in the day, and they were raving about it. I was like, you know what? I picked up my copy of Kirby on the GBA, and I went over to the store and I traded it in, and I was like, I'm done with this Kirby. It's time for some Animal Crossing.
Nice.
And that never looked back. I'm a bit sad to say I've not really played much Kirby since.
Oh, no.
Sorry, Kirby.
I feel like when we asked our Haken members about how they found out first about Animal Crossing, a lot of them mentioned the magazines.
Yeah, it was the Nintendo official one in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was great.
Man, they
But
need
no,
to
they
come
made
out with
Animal
another.
Crossing just look like such a interesting, different game. It was very colourful compared to everything else that was
Yeah.
coming out around
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, it looks chill, looks fun. Came with its own memory card, which was always a plus.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun too, just because, I don't know, sometimes I turn on my N64 and I'm like, oh, everything looks a little bit dingy on here. It's nice to have, a game that just stood out in the sense of like just being colorful and have a lot of pop to the designs and everything is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
with
mean,
that,
that first game was super quirky, especially compared to newer entries in the series as well. I think it had something that the others never quite captured. I don't know. I don't want to kind of say bad things about the other games or anything, but I think the quirkiness of it stood out to me most.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're totally right with that, just because that game, it's kind of a pioneering game for this type of genre and everything. The real-time clock was a very new idea, and just the lifestyle behind all of the characters and everything was very different and unique. And I think they were still discovering a lot of what they could do with the game, and so it just gives a much different vibe than, and I'd say they zoned in on kind of the relaxation aspect to other
Yeah.
Animal Crossing games and really lean in that direction.
This kind of idea that you're thrown into a world that is a bit strange. It's familiar, but it's also a little bit odd, and you're just kind of feeling your way around it. I think that's what I like about it.
Yeah, which feels almost like it captures moving out on your own for the first time really well.
I think that's what they were trying to kind of go for. I remember reading something a while back about how it was meant to kind of capture that idea of you moving to an unfamiliar place and being kind of the outsider. Where, of course, it's very different now. The newer games are kind of like, you're on a bit of a pedestal, but yeah, back then, like, you kind of had to forge those relationships with characters. It didn't just get given to you.
Yeah, it feels, yeah, you're totally right. When I think back to that game, it feels like everybody is just as surprised to see you as you are to see them in the first game.
I mean,
and,
you are the only human.
And by the time we reach New Leaf, it's like, oh, our mayor is here. We've been expecting you. They've signed you up already to lead everyone through everything. So yeah, I guess my follow-up question with this one is, what is your favorite Animal Crossing game?
I mean, I probably don't really need to tell you, do I? No, I'm all for nostalgia. I'm very stuck in the past. I'm very stuck in my ways. But normally, the first of a franchise is usually the one that sticks with me the most. Yeah, it's got to be that GameCube game.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
a
the others
special
didn't
one.
quite hook me as much. The only exception being probably Wild World, being like the first handheld version. And being able to take that with you was such a huge thing. So I know more people that put time into Wild World more than the console versions.
Yeah. Wild World was a big standout for a lot of fans.
Wild.
Yeah. So we got to pull you into the future a little bit and talk a little bit about New Horizons.
Oh, must we?
We must. What do you have a new New Horizons feature that's your favorite?
Yeah, like as much as I like the older entries, I do play New Horizons. Probably not as much as I could. But yeah, I think New Horizons is an interesting entry. It's kind of a step in a different direction. Not necessarily like a good or a bad. I think the biggest feature for me that kind of stands out is the being able to put furniture outside. I feel like even without other features in the game, that one in particular is kind of the catalyst for people getting creative and making their towns look different to other people's. It's just being able to put things outside without that kind of clunky restriction that New Leaf or E Plus had, where you had to kind of stay within the boundaries, stay within the rules. And it was such a faff. You have to demolish thing one day, place it in another. I mean, we still have that bridges and things, but maybe someday, maybe next game, who knows. But yeah, I feel like that taking away that level of clunkiness from it and just being able to freely let people do what they want with furniture, I think is the big one.
Yeah, I think it integrates so well with the past games too. It feels like it should have been there all along, which is so nice.
Yeah. So even without like terraforming and stuff, it would still let people be expressive.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Bracken, I feel honored that I get to ask the most important question for you.
Yeah?
What is your favorite KK Slider song?
Oh. My favorite KK song is KK Ragtime. Honestly, I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it's just it got ingrained into my head. Maybe I had lots of villagers who had the song in their house. But for some reason, with all the others that are amazing, no one ever talks about KK Ragtime. But for me, that's like, that's Animal Crossing is KK Ragtime.
Nice.
I have a guess as to why, actually, because I do really like this song. And I think it's because it played on the TVs in the original Animal Crossing game sometimes.
Oh, really?
I want to say it did, or like, I want to say there was some sound.
Like it's so familiar.
Yeah, I just feel like it was playing on something in the original game, and that's why it kind of like stuck in my head at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's a great one, though. I definitely play that one a lot. I'd say I played it a lot in the older games, and I don't know why I don't so much anymore, but I will probably put it in a room now.
I mean, there are too many good songs, let's be honest. Just choosing one is, you should be able to make like a playlist. You know how it has like a shuffle feature on the music players? We should have like a playlist so you can just put your like S tiers in there. I would love that.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned this because I'm in your streams quite a bit. I always like when you stream, it tends to be like in the morning when I first wake up. So I kind of start my morning just hanging out and watching while I go through my dailies and everything. But you have a channel points reward that is Let's Pretend It's Saturday.
Yes, because I never stream on Saturday.
Yeah, and so what it does is somebody picks a KK Slider song to play for everybody. And one thing that I always love is when we find another song with a little awoo howl from KK Slider.
Oh, yes. The good awoo. That's like the measure of a good song. Does it have an awoo in the song?
Yeah, it's adorable.
The channel favourite is KK Bossa, which is really great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, does not have any awoos in it, but you know,
No.
No.
it's pretty good. People really like that redemption thing. I had to increase the cooldown a few times because people would just constantly be wanting to request songs. But yeah, no, it's a bit of fun, and it's also kind of introduced me to some songs I'm unfamiliar with as well, because everyone has their favorite, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always really exciting when somebody is just like, "Oh, let's listen to this one," and you're like, "Oh, I didn't know we were in for the deep cuts here."
Yeah. I like the awoos, but I also like when he goes like, Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes. And sometimes he raps.
Yes.
Or he has like little bits of auto tune and just really strange things.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. Cool. So I guess, this is kind of leading us into a discussion about you and your art and what you create and everything. So, like I mentioned, you stream over on diyCrossing, right?
Yes.
And basically, you stream arts and crafts style. You're molding your clay. You're creating Animal Crossing amiibo figures, all custom made and everything. So I'm gonna let Nina start here because I know she's got a lot of questions for you when it comes to this stuff.
Chuy asked us a couple weeks ago, I was like, do you have any questions for Bracken? And I was like, yes, here are 15 questions. So my first question, and I think you kind of started off with it a little bit when you were talking about yourself, but how long have you been working with modeling clay?
So clay itself, I only really kind of dabbled in it. When I was a bit younger, I used to get packs of, like that air dry stuff that was really cheap in the store. Of course, I'd only use one tiny piece because then the rest would just dry out and go horrible.
Yes.
But I hate that stuff. I hate it. So I used to just like kind of make little things like one-offs. I used to make, I don't know if any of you are Sonic people. I'm not really a Sonic person, but little Chow
Good.
figures. So I kind of just made a few of those to kind of just match my game or whatever. But I didn't properly start using polymer clay, the oven baked stuff, until just about 5 years ago. And just kind of randomly gave it a go. But yeah, other than that, just kind of dabbling, I guess.
Wow.
This is probably the medium I've stuck with the longest. Because I'd always kind of jump around things. Like I did digital for a while. I would do painting, a bit of this, bit of that, So being able to stick with it for 5 years is actually a bit of an accomplishment.
That's amazing. I mean, your work looks so professional. So for only 5 years under your belt with it is unbelievable to me.
I mean, the first maybe year or so, I went quite hard on it, a little bit hard on it. So yeah, it's been really good. I think the hard part with sticking with something is that it takes a while to see any progress because you don't have anything to kind of compare it to. So the first maybe year or so, you're just kind of trying things out, getting it wrong a lot. But the difference is that you just stick with it. A lot of people will kind of give up at that stage. And I think I did the same thing with other stuff. Like, you give it a go and then it would kind of peter off because you weren't seeing much improvement. But no, for some reason I just, maybe because it was Animal Crossing, I don't know, I just kind of stuck with it and just, ran with it.
Wow. You mean to keep going, Chuy, or do you guys want to keep switching off?
No, you go for it.
Oh, all right. So how long have you been making like purely Animal Crossing commissions?
Honestly, the entire 5 years.
Wow.
Animal Crossing was the thing that kicked it off. It was around the time when the first amiibo cards came out. So around 2015. And I just I got all the cards and I was like, oh, these are really cool. It'd be nice if there were figures, because there were a few figures, I think, at the time, already out for like Amiibo Festival and stuff. And I thought, it'd be really nice if there were more characters to do. So I just kind of had a go. I took one of the cards that I had the most of, which was Serrano. I had about 5 Serranos for some reason, and just thought,
Wow.
you know what, I'll give it a try, see what happens. And it came out okay, and I was like, you know what, it's all right. I picked another couple of cards I had Puck and I had Chief, and so I made those
Nice.
2, and then after that, I was like, you know what, this is all right. I'll see if anyone else would be interested. Because at the time, Amiibo for Animal Crossing was so new, there wasn't really a lot going on. I mean, that's very different now.
Right.
You can't go very far without seeing some kind of Amiibo things. But no, and there was interest, so I just stuck with it, I guess.
That's so
Um,
cool.
I have
No,
a
it was-
question based on that.
Yeah,
How many amiibo cards did you buy to get 5 Serranos?
yeah. 5 Serranos. You don't want to know. Yeah. I
So,
know.
were you trying to collect like a complete set, or was it just a general interest in them?
I think at the time it was just a general interest. I kind of pulled money with someone else and we just bought like a ton of cards. But then after that, we ended up with so many that I started buying, just whole boxes when the
Wow.
other series came out.
Yeah.
Because it was the cheapest way to just kind of make sure you had them all. Because every box had, I don't know if this is set or whatever, but it had every single card. Every so often, 1 or 2 would be missing. But I don't know if I was lucky or whatever, but it was interesting. But I think the strange thing about when the first round of Amiibo came out is that at the time, Animal Crossing was kind of in a bit of a slump.
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt like they were trying to renew interest in Animal Crossing, obviously, because they were planning a new main series game. But didn't they admit that they only made the Amiibo because they wanted... Sorry, they only made Amiibo Festival because they wanted to make Amiibo for Animal Crossing?
Yeah,
Or something like that?
I believe Aya Kyogoku is on record for saying that in an interview.
Yeah, it was really strange because Animal Crossing wasn't... I mean, Animal Crossing is always quite big, but it was in like a real dip. So
Yeah,
it was a strange place to be at with Animal Crossing when I started off, but obviously there were still people that were interested, so that was lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
Some of us wanted to buy boxes worth, right?
I'm
I
going.
know, I was there too.
Yeah. I'm going a little off script again, but so you were using the Amiibo cards like as references for so long. When New Horizons started getting news and we got those like brand new renders of the villagers in their new outfits, was that like a good reaction? Yay, I have more things to look at.
You can't see me, but I'm kind of slowly nodding and... Yeah,
or was it like, oh no, they're different now? Like,
I think the one that got me the most was when they revealed sleeves for villagers.
yeah,
And
nice.
everyone lost their minds. And I watched it, and I also lost my mind, but maybe
In a
not
bad
in the same way. No, I had a bit of help with Pocket Camp, if I'm honest. Pocket Camp has a very interesting style. I think a lot of the item and the clothing are very almost over the top in places. I'm not really a Pocket Camp player, but I know people are always like, oh, bring this to New Horizons, it's so cool, like really big, flashy things. And so I had a bit of practice with Pocket Camp. The references were better. Because, of course, as you said, I just started with the Amiibo card. I just saw what I had and just ran with it. I got things wrong a lot. I would forget tails. I had no idea if Fauna had spots on the back of her head. Just small things like that. And so Pocket Camp was kind of the big jump up in quality. Because before that, all we had was like New Leaf. I think if you scanned Amiibo cards into certain games, you could find images. I remember scanning Amiibo cards into Happy Home Designer, and you couldn't turn the character around, but they would walk in a circle sometimes.
Yeah.
And I remember staring at my terrible little crusty game and just waiting with my phone, waiting for them to turn around because I wanted to see. And just things like that were an absolute nightmare. So, of course,
Yeah.
Pocket Camp, it was all photogenic and the models were insane. You were then able to find 3D models online that people had found. And so I think at that point, with New Horizons as well, the references get better and better. And so I'm able to kind of almost study them a little bit more and just try and improve them over time. So that's been pretty good. But yeah, things like the sleeves did throw me off a bit because, of course, I had to change the way that I did things and try and keep up with the standard because the standard shot up so quickly.
Yeah.
And I just suddenly thought, oh no, this is going to be an interesting year. But no, I think it's been for the better. As much as I like the classic little togas that they wear, you know, you put on a shirt and it's just a texture on a cone. As much as I like that style, I think having that kind of opportunity to improve has helped.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeves are okay now. I'm cool with sleeves now.
Yeah, I
Nice.
hadn't even thought of like all of the details you could miss from just an image on an amiibo card. So I'm guessing Harv's Island is pretty nice to you now.
Yeah, I mean, Halves Island has been pretty good. I think for the most part I'm using just models, even just screenshots. Most of the time, if you just like Google a character now, the references you'll get are so much better than anything I had back then. The amiibo cards' colours are strange as well. They're posed strangely. They're actually posed in ways that are not possible in-game, if that makes sense. They've almost moved their body parts around to make them visible. Because there are some characters that look weird from certain angles. And you can see in some cards where they've kind of almost taken the model apart and twisted it and changed it so that it looks good as a picture. And that's just something I kind of noticed through using the cards as reference. The colours are also super dark. Like, really, really dark.
So interesting. So
yeah, weird amiibo things.
As someone who's been working on commissions for, you know, over 5 years, how do you like push through either creative blocks or like when you just don't feel like making art a certain day, but you've got to get a commission done? What's your kind of process with that?
No, it's a good question. I think for a lot of people who turn a hobby into kind of something more than that, there comes this point where you have to decide, okay, I enjoy doing this thing, but am I going to enjoy doing it for other people? Am I going to enjoy doing it in someone else's style? Am I going to enjoy working with someone else's character? And I think a lot of the reason I've been able to stick with it is because it's fundamentally Animal Crossing. It's something I'm interested in. Now and then people will ask for something a bit more custom, like a pet, or of course their player character, but even then it's still within that kind of same space. And so being motivated to do it is a lot easier.
I gotcha.
I've tried other things in the past, doing commission stuff, and it just always fell through because I just wasn't interested. It sounds bad, but I think you need a certain kind of investment in the subject to be able to kind of keep going with it and stay motivated. I mean, of course, there are times where you're not feeling like it. You know? I feel like not doing a stream today. Like, oh, I already did a stream this week. You know? I mean, everyone gets like that.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I don't have to stick rigidly to a schedule. I think if I had to do that, it would kill it for me. You know, if I had to make a certain number a week or I had to, you know, stream a certain number of times, I think that would kind of ruin it a bit. I've kind of set it up around myself so that I have a bit of freedom, a bit of creative freedom, and even just a little bit of that is super, super helpful if you're pushing from a hobby into something more. Giving yourself days where you can just do whatever you want, you know? Days where it doesn't matter if you finish what you're meant to be working on, you can just kind of go ham with it, try something new, and at the end of it you don't feel like you wasted a day.
Wow.
And I think having that and having that variety built up around myself has helped kind of balance things and keep motivation high, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me. I know a lot of people are very different in what motivates them. What motivates me is a little bit of fire, so a little bit of pressure, which is always there. When it's doing a thing for someone else, that's a given, you know. And also just having a variety of things to do is good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I think if there's not really a date for something, I can just keep pushing it off. And sometimes
no.
it's even like, you know, with a creative piece, you can mess with it more and more as you look
Right,
at it
right.
closer and closer,
Yes.
and you just keep saying,
Oh,
oh,
yes.
maybe I'll add this detail and everything. So it's really hard not to extend beyond that deadline if you don't have one.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's a bit of a balancing act. And of course, if you go over a deadline, you then kind of get a bit desensitized to it, and you're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter now because I'm already a day late, so...
It can only get more late.
Yeah. No, but if it's for someone else, it feels bad. You know, if it's
Yeah.
just something you're doing for yourself, it's not as bad. But if you know that there's someone waiting halfway across the world for something, it really does kind of almost guilt you into it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky most people are really understanding. Like, if things are taking a long time, I can just be like, yo, it's not quite going to plan. And most people are just like, that's fine, you know. They've waited this long, they're happy to wait longer, that kind of thing. So
Yeah. I'm sure they'd rather it, you know, look the best it can than look rushed.
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what about, you know, on your own days when you are giving yourself like a little bit of a personal break? Do you make personal art for yourself, or is it truly a break day?
I mean, I don't treat them as like a break day. It's more like
Right.
just like a creative freedom day. I used to call them Freedom Fridays, but now Freedom Fridays happen on Mondays. They happen on Wednesdays. You know, they happen. Let's pretend it's Freedom Friday. You know, so yeah, I don't always set them up specifically to do certain things. It's usually just this is a day where I'm gonna do whatever I want, but it has to stay in that kind of creative space. And it doesn't have to be something to do with diyCrossing, but I find that very often it is. I like being able to do what I want within the diyCrossing kind of umbrella in a way. I don't always go off topic. Sometimes I do, but I find that I get most kind of creative gratification from exploring new ideas that I don't normally get to do when I'm doing like the streaming, the video editing, you know, the usual stuff. And so I kind of gravitate towards kind of trying out new ideas or trying out new materials, but in kind of keeping at the back of my mind, this could lead to something for diyCrossing.
Oh, wow.
If that makes sense.
Wow.
I would like to do more kind of off-topic personal stuff. I think in the last 5 years I've only made maybe 3 or 4 pieces that weren't Animal Crossing related. So, you know, it's something I would like to do more, but I find that I don't get as invested in it because to me it feels like there's no kind of endpoint there. I don't know.
Wow.
It's a tricky question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the texture stuff that I do on the side, even though that is Animal Crossing, I actually keep that very separate from my main thing. And so I guess that's kind of a personal project, working on that. Even though, you know, it's all work, hobby, and play Animal Crossing, it's still kind of a break from the normal, you know.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
any kind of break helps your mind to get a little bit of a relaxed time.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of
Yeah.
consider it as just something I don't have to do, but something that I would like to do and would like to try.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought up the texture pack too. Can you tell people a little bit about that project?
Yeah, of course. So way back when I kind of was toying with the idea of streaming my art stuff, I mean, I don't do it anymore now, but I thought, oh, it'd be nice to kind of play a bit of Animal Crossing on stream. And so I used to play some of the GameCube version kind of in between like crafting breaks. And while I was kind of looking that up, I found a texture project on the Dolphin forums for Animal Crossing, where someone was kind of redrawing all the assets and making the original GameCube version look kind of shiny and new. And I thought, hey, that would be something interesting to get involved with that could also be tied to what I'm doing on stream. And so I got kind of low-key involved in that. I did like a few things here and there. And then at one point, the person who originally started the project decided they didn't want to work on it anymore. And so they kind of offered, would you like to take charge of this project? And at that point, I'd kind of done quite a few textures for it. I thought, you know what? I love this game. I love the idea of making it look better. And so, yeah, I grabbed a few people together, and for the last few years, we've been slowly but surely replacing all the textures in the original GameCube version to look nice, to look better.
So cool.
Because
Nice.
those textures are super old. They're super crusty. And so, yeah, it's been a really interesting and fun kind of side project that's not super involved with diyCrossing. It's just kind of on the side. It's been a nice kind of break from the normal stuff.
Yeah, and kind of just to let people in on how old those are, the GameCube version of Animal Crossing is really like a nice port of the N64 game.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of these things were existing. I don't know, how many consoles ago was that now? It's a very long time ago.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so-
the original textures, they didn't really change them at all between the Nintendo 64 version and the GameCube version. And so the game already looks a little bit dated. I mean, people don't normally bring that up, but, people care more about how big and impressive the game is. They don't really look at the textures and go, oh, they're ugly. But they're ugly. So, yeah, it's really easy to find people who are on board with this kind of project, because just seeing something that old that you're kind of nostalgic about in a new form is really nice. So, yeah, it's just a fun little side thing that we do.
That's awesome.
But no, it's so on the side. I honestly think that the people I work with on that project don't even know about diyCrossing.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think originally I wanted it kind of integrated, but after a while I was like, you know what? I kind of like this as just a thing I can do in my spare time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fun. So, okay, when you are making these commissions, is there any villagers that you have just gotten over and over and over again and you are so tired of making?
Oh no. I'm very lucky in that they don't overlap very often, actually.
That's good.
Despite having done, I'm currently making number 500 now.
Oh my gosh.
The amount of overlap is surprisingly small. It would be nice if I had, by this point, made one of every villager, but I feel like that's never going to happen. But you'll find that a lot of characters are more popular than others, but it's not as crazy different as you think. What I actually found was that almost... I don't know if anyone remembers back a few years ago, there was like a big poll, and it was like, what is your favourite Pokemon? And they got like tons and tons of people to... just fill in what their favourite Pokemon was. And they found that despite being how many hundreds there are now, like 800 or something,
Right.
every single Pokemon except maybe one or two didn't have a vote.
Oh, wow.
So someone didn't want them as their favourite. And I'm pretty sure that the same thing goes for Animal Crossing. I bet every single villager has someone out there who's like, this weird cat is my favourite.
Aww.
And so I find that actually there's not an awful lot of overlap. I did have a look back through, because I keep like a log of everything. And I found that the most popular villagers were Fauna and Marshall.
Wow.
So Fauna I've made 10 times, Marshall I've made 14 times.
Whoa.
But the thing is they're so spread out that it doesn't really bother me too much. The only issue that sometimes comes up is the fact that there are more cats, for example, than anteaters. And so it's more likely that someone is going to have a favourite that's a cat than an anteater. And the problem that has for me is that I have less practice with certain species. And to date, I still have never made a gorilla.
Wow.
Not a single one. Which is kind of sad, but also, you know, they're less popular than others, and there aren't as many as, you know, there's so many cats. So many cats.
We know
We
very
really need
well
more
on this
cats.
podcast how many cats there are.
Oh, so many cats.
I don't think Sergio knows.
Oh,
No? Sergio,
no,
there
I
are
do.
a lot of cats. There's a lot.
Amazing. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so I mean, it can be a problem.
Yeah.
Now and then I'll craft a villager that I'm a bit unfamiliar with and I'm a bit nervous about. And it's just because I've never had the chance. There's surprisingly little overlap. I've never had to kind of step in and be like, oh, no cats this week, guys, you know.
Because you
I mean,
don't work
it
with
might happen.
molds, right? That's amazing.
Say again, sorry?
Oh, sorry. Because you don't work with molds, right? You make each one like from scratch
From
by
scratch.
hand.
Yeah.
That's
They're all
awesome.
from scratch because I feel like that's the best way to look at your own stuff and improve.
Yeah.
So every time I make something, I try and just get like a little bit better. Or just change like one thing to be a bit different to the usual.
Right.
And so I think there was one point where I genuinely thought that I had peaked.
Oh,
And I was seriously considering just molding everything.
yeah.
And it's maybe like a year and a half later, and I'm thinking, why on earth would I have molded them at that point? Because now I look at them and I'm like, I can do better than that.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of glad in a way. I don't know. It's tricky. There's kind of the toss-up between I can make something faster, I can make something better, I can provide more I mean, it's a lot about the streaming as well. People often ask why I don't airbrush the base colours. Why don't I mould certain parts that are always the same? Why don't I 3D print or whatever? And a lot of it comes down to, if I did that, you'd have nothing to watch. You know, that's taking away hours of just,
Yeah, true.
like, a lot of people don't have access to kind of fancy equipment and stuff. And so if I airbrushed everything, for example, someone who didn't have access to that equipment would have nothing to go off. You know, and a lot of people watch for learning. They want to learn how to do it too. And so I try and make it very accessible and just kind of like, anyone can do this. You can just start from scratch. You just take these things and you can have a go. And it helps me give advice to people as well. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a balancing act.
Yeah.
And deciding which way you want to go with it and how far into each kind of skill you want to go. But for me, it's just making it stream friendly, I guess. I mean, most things would be very, very loud. So, you know. Yeah.
That's awesome. So like, what impresses me most watching your streams is your craftsmanship is off the charts for me. I feel like whenever I'm crafting or painting or drawing or whatever, I just have made a mess everywhere. It's all over my hands.
Oh no,
Somehow
it's all
I've
about making a
gotten-
mess.
It's
all about
awful. But your final pieces are beautiful, like so well finished. So can you talk a little bit about how you've gotten to that point in your crafting?
Honestly, just, it's the one piece of advice no one likes to hear, but it's the one that's the truth, is just practice. Just do a thing and don't stop doing the thing. Just, if it sucks, that's fine. Do it again. And it's probably going to suck again, but you know what? Do it again. And just, I don't know, whatever it takes to motivate you to keep going with something that you think sucks, just go for it. You know, for me, that was Animal Crossing. For you, it might be, I don't know, penguins. I don't know. You love penguins? Make a penguin. It probably looks terrible, but you're going to make another penguin, okay? And just make lots of penguins. And eventually, you kind of get to that point where you like, yes, I know how to do this certain thing. I know how to make this leg the right size, because you've done it again and again and again. And I think for me, it becomes a bit rote sometimes, to the point where you kind of have to be careful a little bit that you don't get too routine.
Right.
Because if you kind of fall into that trap where like, oh, I know how to make this penguin, but all of my penguins now look the same.
Right.
And I'm not improving.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have heard of kind of plateauing in art, where you kind of go up and up and up in skill, but then you'll hit that point where you're not learning anymore.
Right.
Because you've learned the skills, but you need to kind of push beyond it, and you need to support it with kind of more learning, more looking at references, more studying. And as we were talking about the references and stuff earlier, I kind of do stuff like that. So I study 3D models. I kind of turn the characters round and I look at them and I think, how can I improve the next one? You know, oh, like maybe I don't normally do the legs like this. Maybe I should give it a go on the next one. And just kind of taking a small thing at a time and just pushing yourself forward, I think is really important. And I mentioned earlier that I, at one point, thought I had peaked in what I could do, and I was a bit unsure about what I was doing at that point. It was then that I kind of, I mean, thankfully also the sleeves thing was around that time. So, you know, it was a good chance to kind of look at what I was doing and think, how can I make this better? Instead of just kind of giving up or just doing the same thing over and over and over again, just constantly pushing yourself forward. Just putting like a bit of pressure on yourself to always keep moving forward, even if it's a cat that you have done 50 times. You know, because let's face it, I've probably done a lot of cats.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, I think that's kind of the main thing, is finding something that you love to do and just keep doing it.
Yeah. I try and liken it to like learning an instrument. A lot of people, I feel, think that artistic, you know, anything is innate, or people are born with like either they're artsy or they're not. But it's the same as learning to play an instrument. You have to keep practicing, you have to keep pushing yourself, like you just said. And that's what really makes an artist.
I think people can have a knack for certain things. I think people can find skills in different ways that they didn't realize they had. Maybe at some point you did some weird summer job, or maybe, you know, you had to do something a bit strange. And I think these little skills just build up over time.
Yeah.
And so you might find that when you start doing something like painting or sculpting or learning an instrument, you have a bit of a knack for it, because maybe you've already learned a skill somewhere else that helped. And so lots of people think like, oh, I'm not an arty person, I'm not a creative person, so I can't do this. And I think that's not the best way to look at it. I think with enough kind of scaffolding and prompting, there's enough there for someone to get started with it. And once you're past that kind of giving up point, that's when you start to grow.
Yeah. I
like to think of it that way, because I don't like to block anyone off from doing certain things.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've talked about how many cats you've made and how you've never made it a gorilla.
Sorry,
but
gorillas.
do you have a favorite villager to make? Like, if you see it on your list of commissions coming up, do you get super excited?
I don't know. I mean, I like getting the ones that I don't get often. You know, if something weird comes up, like an anteater, or what else do people not like?
Like an ostrich, maybe?
Oh, when was the last time I did an ostrich? I don't even know. But yeah, like if something interesting comes up, that's when I'm like, this is a good opportunity to, you know, improve a little bit, but also do something a bit different. Because if your entire feed is cats, if all you make is penguins, people get really excited about seeing things that are slightly different. And I find that people get more excited about just a blank sculpt of an anteater than a finished piece of like a popular cat.
Wow.
Just because people are like, oh wow, I hope it's this character because they're my favorite, and all these people come out who are like, oh, this weird character is my favorite. Oh, I love anteaters. Oh, they need more attention, you know. And so the people are there, and all they're getting is cats. But what they really want, what they really want, is Gaston. They want, I don't know, Antonio. Gaston. Yeah, and like, yeah, as I said, like, I'm pretty sure every character has someone out there rooting for them, and they're just waiting. I mean, as I mentioned about the anteater picture, I posted up a picture of just a blank anteater, and apparently a lot of people like Antonio.
Yeah.
And everyone was very, very disappointed when it was not Antonio.
Did it end up being Pengo?
Yes, it was Pango.
That's my
recently.
favorite anteater. So I was happy.
You were happy. I think most of those people were not very happy. So, you know, the swings and roundabouts.
Oh man, that's amazing. Well, you guys, Sergio and Chuy, you guys, ask some questions. Get over here.
Aren't you done? Was that already 15 questions? You sure you don't have more?
I mean, of course I do, but I've talked too much.
I just had a quick one. Do you get a lot of koala requests?
Ooh.
Not enough koalas. Not enough.
That's a great answer.
I love making the koalas. I think all of the koalas are really interesting characters. But people just like cats more. I'm sorry.
There's so many of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I always think of I recently got a commission from you. I'm very
so
excited
jealous.
for you to
Yes, yours is
get to work
coming
on
up.
it. And honestly, like I went with my character because I feel like that seemed like the obvious choice for me, but it's obvious mostly because I would never be able to pick which villager I would
I
want you
was
to
going to say, there are too many. Too many.
I've been sitting here thinking like, what would I get made? Because part of it is just I want something. I tend to like getting something that I feel will probably not be the big commercial option for Nintendo.
Yes.
The one that Nintendo's most likely not going to make a little figure for.
That's a really good point. Really, really good point. A lot of people will pick kind of their own character rather than their favourite villager. Because it's a bit more personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just thinking of all the characters that weren't made now, I'm just like, oh, a gorilla wouldn't be a bad choice. I'm a big fan of Pee-wee and Violet. I think they're really cool
You could be
gorilla
the first
characters.
gorilla.
Yeah.
Imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got Rilla coming back into the game. Maybe people would like Rilla.
I don't know.
That's
I
true.
don't know if she has much of a fan base.
I've seen a lot of very angry people
Yeah.
that they chose her for the Hello Kitty character.
Yeah.
People
Instead
just
of
don't
another
like them.
cat.
Instead of another cat. I mean, why isn't it a cat? It's Hello Kitty.
It's too close. It's too close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you said you didn't play it as often as you'd like, but is there anything you can tell us about your New Horizons island?
It's an island. It has some trees. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it does have trees, obviously. It has cats too. It has one
Wow.
cat. It has Tabby. She gets a free pass. She's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of play in bursts. I did the same thing as everyone else. I played a lot at the beginning, and I think the bulk of my playtime was at the beginning. And now it's more of I drop in once every week or so, or I'll just spend a random weekend redoing a part of the island. But mostly it's just kind of it's not super interesting. I try and stick to the tools that I'm given in a game.
Yeah.
So I haven't gone crazy with terraforming. I haven't placed things everywhere. I haven't gone with like a big theme or anything. I don't even use custom designs or paths, anything like that. So I just kind of use the tools that are there in a very kind of simple way and try and make them just look nice, I guess. You should probably visit my town at some point. I don't have like a dream address or anything. I just kind of, I I drop in now and then. But it's mostly just pretty basic. I have like zones. I have like a shopping zone. I have all of my villagers stacked in a 3-tier apartment complex, I guess you could call it. I live there too. Like I'm in there with them. I saw everyone being like, and this is my house on the top of the hill, and it has a waterfall, and all the villagers live down there. That's their bit, right? And then if you come to this half of the island, this is my bit. And so I kind of me being the kind of nostalgic GameCube person I am, I just kind of nestled myself in with the villagers, and it's like there's like a little communal area where they have a gym and a pool, and that's one little bit of the island, and I'm just kind of slowly taking parts and just being like, this could be an arcade, or nothing crazy.
You're part of the people. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, my house is the biggest house. It might be like in the middle, so everyone can see that it's,
Look, if they would let us make our villager houses bigger, that some of them would have bigger houses.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tabby and Claude could just move in. I'm cool with that.
Oh, that'd be so much fun.
Or they could move in together.
I love it.
Yeah. So kind of on the topic of New Horizons, is there any kind of update you would like to see for the game?
Ooh. I think for me, kind of going back to what I was saying about furniture being the kind of big thing for me, just more stuff, more, interesting furniture, more stuff that I can just put places, I mean, the customization stuff is pretty good. It makes things look a bit different to other people's, but I'm missing a lot of the quirkier things from earlier games, like different types of TVs. Like all the TVs are just kind of like flat screen things. We used to have like a robot TV and like classic retro TVs.
Yeah.
Just kind of a wider variety of furniture, I think, is kind of the only thing I'm really interested in. And Brewster is he's pretty high up in that list. But no, I'm kind of past the point of wanting the game to just have everything. I know everyone's like, oh, it should have everything New Leaf had and more, but I think I'm okay with it being a bit scaled back. I honestly think the game isn't going to expand much further out than it is now. I'm a bit of a naysayer. I know, Nina, you sometimes mention you're kind of the not always, not really looking too far ahead, not really too hopeful about stuff. But honestly, I built that boat, Nina. It's mine.
Oh no!
And you're welcome aboard at any time. But I kind of think there's not too much more coming, but I would like just some more variety. I think that's about it.
Yeah. Wow.
That's awesome. Well, Nina, unless there's anything you really need to know, we've had Bracken here for an hour now.
Oh no, I'm so
sorry. So yeah, I mean, I guess we can skip over to the
Thanks for
last
inviting
few
me, Nina.
sections.
That was really kind of you, to set up this whole thing just for me, just you and me.
Man, now that we have a boat together, I'm
Oh yeah.
I'm done for the year.
Yeah, before you go, and before we go into this next little section too, I actually wanted to, give you a chance to plug all of your stuff, where people can find you and support you.
Oh, cool. I can do that. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm diyCrossing everywhere. So I stream on Twitch, gallery stuff where you can just kind of see pictures. Instagram is probably the best for that. Facebook is an offshoot of that one. If you can't catch streams or you don't want to watch live streams, I put a kind of sped up footage on YouTube where you can just kind of see little time lapses of things being made. Obviously it's not the whole content, but you kind of get the gist. But yeah, links to everything is just diyCrossing.com, and it's all there at the top for you.
Nice.
Yeah, and we'll have that all in the description for this episode too. So anybody who wants to find Bracken, it should be there.
Yes.
Cool. So before we get into Haken's Islander Corner real quick, I did want to mention another little piece of news. There is a Build-A-Bear collaboration happening with Animal Crossing New Horizons. Build-A-Bear, which makes a bunch of stuffed animals, stuffed toys, clothing, and apparel for those stuffed toys, is teaming up with Nintendo to make an Animal Crossing New Horizons line. As of right now, or as of this recording, there is a newsletter you can sign up for. It's all coming soon. They haven't announced any characters or anything quite yet, but I'm really glad there's somebody in charge of choosing them because I would never be able to choose which characters to do. But it should be pretty awesome. We'll probably talk about it a lot more in depth next episode, but we do have our Haken's Islander Corner, which does have a Build-A-Bear question for all of them. So for those of you who don't know, every single week we ask our patrons on Patreon a question and read their answers out loud here on the show. And this week's question was, Build-A-Bear announced a New Horizons collaboration. What characters would you like to be represented? And so, yeah, typically we read these questions. Bracken, are you comfortable reading some of these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Answers?
I've got them up.
Cool. Well, then maybe we will go Bracken, then Sergio, then Nina, then me on these.
Okay.
Sure. So, first answer is from Eduardo Ambris, who says, I would love to see Isabelle. She has a huge variety of outfits we could choose from now. All of the Smash outfits, past game outfits, and now all her New Horizons outfits, especially the Nook Ink stuff. Just thinking about her cute jingling bell makes it a must-have, obviously. If I could choose a non-NPC, because I have a feeling that the type of plushies we're going to be getting, there's a bit too many actual villagers to choose from, I would love Antonio. He is my best friend and one of my OGs. He is super cute, and I love his jock personality.
That's the perfect answer for you.
Yeah.
Antonio.
Oh, Antonio, I'm sorry. Maybe someday.
That's so funny. I would love to see Isabelle in her new sweater, that like brown sweater that has the patch of flowers on the side.
Yes.
That would be super
Oh,
cute.
yeah. I'll tell you what, though. They're missing a trick if they don't do the kimono outfit. Because I'll tell you what, I don't normally get requests for characters that already have amiibo figures, but Isabelle in her kimono was super highly requested back in the day.
Wow.
I hope they do give her actual like little jingle bells too.
Oh, they must.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, they have to do that. It's in her name. She
Yeah.
is a bell.
You can fill her with coins.
So the next answer is by Yuri Young, and they said, I agree with others that it will most likely be non-playable characters, and I'm sure Sergio would be ecstatic over a KK slider. Yes. But what I would really like most is my favorite cranky dad villager, Kabuki. Dad jokes, outdated slang, worrying about my safety. What's not to love?
Oh, Kabuki.
I feel like that would be
Nice.
really hard to make because of all his designs on his face.
But he would be the best one. He would overshadow all of them.
It's true.
Just make Kabuki.
Just Kabuki, no one else. Lucy says, take all my money, build a bear. This is the collab I've been dreaming of, as plushies are my main vice in life. I really hope we get a good mix of NPCs and villagers and not just Tom Nook. I'd really love it if they made a Celeste, Blathers, and Leaf, along with a good mix of villagers, not just the popular ones. If they make Lily the Frog, I may just die of happiness. Also, I really hope they make the outfits and accessories we can dress them in super cute, like a little Animal Crossing New Horizon branded suitcase or passport, the Nook Ink tropical shirts, and the tree sweater. Oh my gosh.
Oh. I am all about the tree sweater. And on this whole post, the take all my money,
Yeah.
Build-A-Bear, I agree.
Yeah.
I need all of these. I've been eyeing all of those custom plush commissions that people
Oh, they're
do as
so
well.
good. They're so
And
good.
I'm like, I'm ready to like spend 300 on one of these. I'm sure these are going to be a little bit less than that.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
probably, yeah. I wasn't super on board until they mentioned Leaf, and then I'm like, actually, maybe I would.
Oh, be so cute.
That'd be a cute one.
Mhm.
So our next answer is from Kuri, and she said, I would love any of the sheep. They are perfect for a soft, squished plush.
Yeah.
A sheep would be Jackie's number one choice, specifically Stella. She would love a Stella
Imagine trying to
Build-A-Bear.
squish them into the clothes, though.
Yes,
Oh,
a
yeah.
sheep in a tree sweater.
They're going to look so puffy.
It's gonna be
I'd
great.
love it.
Next, we have a Jackson Star who says, I would really want Rosie, but honestly, any cat character I would love. I would say even Rover, but given his limited role in New Horizons, I doubt they would choose him. My biggest not going to happen, but I wish it would be Cat. I'd be surprised if we didn't get a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's either got to be Rover or Raymond,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Or
Or
Rosie.
Rudy.
I mean, Rosie was in the movie, so
Honestly, if they want to print money, Raymond would probably be the choice at
Yeah,
this
right?
I
point.
want to print money.
That's the option.
Yeah.
Raymond
yeah.
and Celeste as well, I think, would be in that as well.
Celeste.
Mhm.
I think Celeste has probably been the character I've seen the most floating around like the art circles.
Yeah.
The next answer is by Dizzy Lizzy, and they said, I'm so excited for the Build-A-Bear collaboration. Considering one of the best parts of building a bear is the outfits and accessories, I'm hoping they include characters who could use a wardrobe, KK Slider, or just a fresh update like Isabel or Tom Nook. Build-A-Bear can expect me to return if they continuously update the clothes and accessories with the seasons, too. Ah, that's a
That's
good point.
awesome.
And this is very off topic, but kind of. It's a sidebar. I have to say this. The biggest Score Bunny plush that you can get at the Pokemon Center, it matches. Basically, it's the size that you can use the clothing and accessories from Build-A-Bear. So, even another reason to get them.
I thought you were going to say you could just buy toddler clothes and put them on it, like it's that big.
I don't know if they're that big.
Someone sees you like, oh, are you buying that for your son? Oh no, this is for my Score Bunny.
I mean, honestly, that is Sergio's son, so it's close enough.
Yeah. They said what would be super cool is if you could design your own villager with the same customizations as in the game online. And then once it's ready, go to the store and build it. Imagine a Build-A-You.
Build
Oh,
you.
that would be
See,
amazing
that-
too.
That would be where the money is at.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you've got everyone on board.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
That's really fun.
Do they do things like that at Build-A-Bear? Can you do custom things?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most custom they get is that you choose like the skin basically of the stuffed animal.
Oh, really?
They stuff it and then you choose like the outfits, but that would be a game changer for Build-A-Bear.
Do they not do any like human characters that you can customize yourself or
I'm
something?
not sure. That's interesting.
I've never been to Build-A-Bear, so I don't know what they really do. But is it just
I've-
animals?
I think so.
I think
Huh.
so. And sometimes Pokemon too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a Pikachu from there.
Oh, nice.
They
Yeah.
do make a Harry Potter line, and it's just their bears with like Harry Potter clothes on. So I think
Oh.
that would have been a good opportunity to do a human, and they didn't take it. So I don't know.
Well, we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's true. We don't
Come
know.
join me in my boat.
All right. Well, Gia says, my friend was telling me about a line of smaller plushies they do called Buddies. Oh, wait. And I think it's really cool if they did a little Timmy and Tommy that way. I personally think just considering how many villagers there are, they'll stick to NPCs, Tom Nook, Isabel, Kiki Slider. And if the release does well, then maybe they'll add a few more popular villagers with the highest demand later. I'm also hoping for one of the new NPCs as well as the classic ones. So maybe a Flick, CJ, or Daisy May will show up. I would really love to see Leaf or Marshall, even though I'm not super hopeful for either of them.
I mean, Marshall will probably also print
I was
money.
going to say,
Yeah.
Marshall's
Yeah.
pretty high up on that list, I think.
Yeah. Daisy May, though, I now realize that I need a Daisy May.
I feel like
Can't
she'd
even
be
imagine her in
tricky.
other clothes.
Yeah. Her little basket would be hard to do.
I mean, I'm still also struggling with the KK slidering clothes, if I'm honest.
He wore some clothes in Amiibo Festival, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that was weird.
outfits.
But it always looks weird, though.
They were like, guys, we need to do something. We need to give him some clothing. Come on, ideas, please.
I feel like at one point he's wearing a hat and nothing else.
Yeah.
I remember the first time seeing him like that, and I was just like, oh, he is naked.
Wasn't that also the first time you saw him, like, standing up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his guitar wasn't hiding anything.
I think I gave him coffee that day.
Oh, man.
All right, so our last answer is from Matt Chow, and they said, this might be a weird one, but how about the mom's plushie?
Oh,
they are so cute.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
like, oh, and I'd like to make one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting one because now we kind of have the stuffed animals in Animal Crossing. And that mom plushie would be pretty adorable to have.
They could, use those pens or paints or whatever to kind of, like, do your own designs or something on them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast. Don't want the episode to end? Well, you can keep the conversation going by Nintendo switching over to our Discord. Just follow the link in the description, and you can talk with other people who love Animal Crossing as much as you do, including Sergio, Nina, and me. Want to support the show in a bigger way and get your voice heard during the show? Visit patreon.com/ChuyPlaysNintendo. You can support our show with just $1, get special access to a secret room on Discord, join in on the Haken Islander Corner, and even read a monthly newsletter covering all things Haken and Chuy Plays. We really appreciate the support and put your money towards some great things on the show. Tuned in on YouTube? The comments are a great place to let us know your answers to the Haken Islander Corner. Build-A-Bear just announced a New Horizons collaboration. What character would you like to be represented? If you dig what you hear, please KK slide over to that review section on your platform of choice. Let people know what they're missing out on. Haken is a wild production brought to you by Chuy, Sergio, Nina, and all of our patrons. We thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you all next time.
Cheers.